Good afternoon. I'm League Member and Co-Chair of Voter Services, Diane D'Imperio, and I'll be the moderator for the United States Representative District 3 panel. Representatives in the United States Congress are elected for a 2-year term with no term limits. Elections occur in even years. There are 11 Republican candidates and 3 Democratic candidates for this seat, and all have been invited to participate in this forum. Since the primary election is closed in Florida, the Republican candidates will appear on the ballot of those who are registered as Republicans, and the Democratic candidates will appear on the ballot of those that are registered as Democrats. Republican candidates who have accepted our invitation to join us this afternoon, listed in alphabetical order, are Todd Chase, Joe Bellato, and Gavin Rollins. Democratic candidates, again listed in alphabetical order, are Adam Christensen, Philip Dodds, and Tom Wells. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for joining us today. This panel will use an open format, which will allow each candidate 3 minutes to tell us about their legislative priorities and why they would be the best candidate for the U.S. Representative for District 3. Republican candidates will present their statements, speaking in alphabetical order, followed by the Democratic candidates, also speaking in alphabetical order. The timer will give you notice at 30 seconds, and then when it's time to stop. And when your time is up, please stop. If you do not stop, your microphone may be muted. So we'll begin with Mr. Chase, your statement, please. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you for having this. My name is Todd Chase, and I am a candidate in the Republican primary here. It's 4 weeks from Tuesday. I'm running for Congress for one simple reason, and that is that I think it is critically important that we have strong, experienced, and principled leaders in Congress, always, in particular now. You know, people here locally for this League of Women Voters have some exposure to me in my 6 years in the Gainesville City Commission, but a lot of people may not know the details of my life. So I'd like to go over not just a resume, but the experience that I had in life, because I think what you'll find when I close here is that experience matters, and I believe it truly does in Congress. And so, you know, my life started in Savannah, Georgia. I was raised by a single mother who got divorced in the early 70s. And she went in line and got help. And the line she got into was the line at the local college admissions office. And she went back to college and she got a degree and she got a job as a social worker. And she raised 2 boys, my brother and I. She raised us well. She gave us love, faith, discipline, and a strong belief in ourselves. I left home at 17 years old on a Navy scholarship to college at Jackson University, and I've never looked back. You know, when I think back on my life, I'm worried in this country we're running out of people like Todd Chase, who worked hard and took personal responsibility for herself and her family, and she took care of us. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running. You know, after college, I went into the Navy and I was a pilot. I ended up serving a total of 26 years in the United States Navy, retiring as a commander. I've been all over the world. I've seen the end of the Cold War from a cockpit and the beginning of the War on Terror from a cockpit. I've been off the border of the United States and the southern border and all around South and Central America, stopping drugs and cartels and terror coming into this country. So I've got a great length of experience in foreign policy matters and defense matters, and I think that's important. You know, I moved to Gainesville 20 years ago after getting my MBA from Harvard Business School, so I've got a business degree, and I moved here to start companies at the University of Florida that were doing research, and we were commercializing research. I've experienced at business and creating jobs. I've had success and I've had failure. You know, I'm just like a lot of people out there. I've lived a very American life. I've raised a family. I have 3 kids, 2 have graduated from college, 1 who's a senior. And I'm worried about this next generation. I'm worried that we have a generation of Americans who love and appreciate this country enough to serve and fight and protect and defend her as we've had since the beginning of our history. So I think we do have a need for leadership. I think I bring that to the table. I have experience in local government, and I have experience being in the minority of a local government, and not just yelling and screaming, but getting things done, working together and working hard. So as you look at your candidates on the Republican side, which I'm not sure how many people are watching who can vote in our primary, but I do appreciate this event, I'd encourage you to look at my background, look at the experience, and vote for Todd Chase for your United States representatives in District 3 on August 18th. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for joining us. Mr. Mulatto, your statement, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Joe Dallas Bellato. I'm a conservative Republican. I am a small business owner and serving as a vice president of a nonprofit. I'm a Trump supporter. And again, I grew up in the state of Florida. I'm a Jacksonville native. What I attribute myself is I'm a son of two loving parents. My father was an engineer. My mother was a teacher for 24 years. Why is this all important? This is important because instead of me in front of you talking right now, someday I hope it could be your son, your daughter, it could be you. What this campaign is about is bringing the right qualifications and the right kind of individuals that will lead us to where we need to be in the future. And it's gonna take the right characteristics. My father, my parents, we did not have money. They taught us values. They taught us to live within our means. And that's the kind of way we ran our campaign. That's why we're so effective as the grassroots. That's exactly how I'm going to represent you and your values in Congress. I spent about over a decade in Washington, not with the politics, not shaking hands. Politics has gotten us nowhere. It was policy. Policy is what I dealt with, and that's what I'm gonna do for you. I think that if every voter out there votes their conscience, votes their heart, votes their district, that I will be your next representative. And you could count that I'm gonna do the same thing. My priorities are Veterans Affairs and National Security. That is one of my top priorities. Those were my specialties when I was up there in Washington, working for two vice chairmen of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. It was talking to so many veterans, militaries, what their priorities were. There's one thing to hear from, organizations or hearing it on the top level what those priorities are, but hearing it on the ground level of what you need. I could take your stories, tell them on the House floor instead of the frivolous things that are being discussed out there. Tell your story because it needs to be told, because so many others out there are suffering and experiencing the same things that you are experiencing. So to have somebody that only talks and acts like they know that these things are happening, why do we send somebody else that isn't us, that isn't like us? It's supposed to be we, the people, of the people, by the people. You go to Mulatto for Congress, MILLADO, the number 4 Congress.com. Follow us on social media so you can stay in the know with Joe. I promise what you've seen in the last 8 years, I could do in 2 years. For first 100 days, I'll have a introduced bill in every standing committee, ideas that we've taken from the campaign trail. Engage us. While everybody else would have you kneel, we simply ask you to rise. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Mr. Rollins, your statement, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Gavin Rollins, and I've had the opportunity to serve this country and community in 3 arenas. One, as a teacher. I'm a high school and middle school social studies history teacher, and I've taught in the classroom civics, the Constitution, U.S. history, and most importantly, the civic virtues that make us Americans, and passing that on to the next generation. I went to the University of Florida for my undergraduate degree and had the honor of being inducted into the University of Florida Hall of Fame, catty corner to Tim Tebow. And then I went on and graduated from the University of West Florida. I had my master's degree in education leadership. So one arena of my life where I've had the opportunity to serve is in the classroom and in education. I think education is such a critical factor in changing lives, and it has the power to transform and empower the next generation. I've also had the opportunity to serve in local government as a county commissioner. And as a county commissioner, I've stood alone when necessary and voted against tax increases and big government and various other things. But I've also been able to build a coalition, and we got term limits passed. We've term limited constitutional officers in Clay County, and I led the effort to do that. We made Clay County a Second Amendment county, and I led that effort. We led the effort to allow employees to conceal carry so that they can defend themselves on the job, and then stood up to Planned Parenthood and other organizations. So I have a proven conservative record as a county commissioner fighting for conservative values. And then I've also literally fought for our country overseas in a combat zone In 2016-17, I was deployed as a part of the Global War on Terror, and actually served under President Trump as an Army intelligence officer. And we did counterterrorism operations, supported those, and also embassy defense, U.S. embassy defense, protecting American interest in U.S. embassies. And then we also dealt with the communist Chinese threat. The communist Chinese were building their first foreign base in Djibouti, East Africa. And so we saw firsthand, I had the opportunity to see firsthand what China is trying to do. They're trying to dominate the world and take over. And we were witnesses to that and saw that firsthand. So I'll take those three arenas of experience to Washington, D.C. with a servant leadership mindset, but also a warrior mindset. And I think that's important. I think it's important to serve the people you represent, but it's also important to be a fighter each and every day for this district. What I'd like to accomplish in DC, I'd like to, number one, national security. If we aren't safe, nothing else matters. So we have to protect our cybersecurity and technology infrastructure against communist China and threats to our internal security when it comes to anarchist organizations that want the downfall of America. Number two, simplifying and reducing big government and pushing back a lot of the authority and power to the states.
Could you wrap it up in a few words, please?
Sure. I didn't see the 10-second thing. Where is
that?
I'm
sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, just try to wrap it up here.
Okay. And then the final point is being a voice for agriculture. My undergraduate degree was from the University of Florida in agriculture, and so I will be a voice for American farmers in Washington, D.C. Gavin Rollins for Congress. Thanks so much.
Thank you, candidates, for joining us. And I just want to remind the viewers that the first wave of candidates are vying for the Republican nomination, and you will be seeing one of them back in our general forum in October, who will be the candidate representing the Republican Party. And now we have statements from Democratic candidates who will be running to represent their party in the general election to try to get the same seat. So start out with Mr. Christensen, please. We'll have your statement. 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Adam. Thank you for putting this event on. Thank you for allowing us to speak. I graduated a few years ago with a degree in biology and a minor in chemistry. And coming out of college, I was approached by a company who brought a product. And they said, we just had to pull it off the market because it was fake, it was fraudulent. We spent $60,000 on it and it wasn't real. They came to me, they said, can you start checking these for us? Can you make sure that what we are buying is actually real, that, you know, we're not getting screwed? And so that was the first company that I set up. I started it with $3,000 that I had made from a summer camp that year working. And I started doing that. And what I started to realize is that most of the things that we have in our lives, they look nice, they have shiny, they've got a bow wrapped around them, but at the end of the day, they're just not real. The things that we market, the things that we have around us, they don't matter. We're paying too much for everything. I grew up in an extremely conservative household. I grew up in the middle of, in Indiana. And the things that I was taught growing up in the church, growing up in that conservative household, is that number one, that the people that have changed the world, the radicals, are the people that healed the sick, made sure that everyone had food to eat, made sure that workers were taken care of, made sure that the poor, the hungry, the sick, the needy, the downtrodden, they were the ones who were focused on. And that's one thing that I have not seen for a very long time, for my entire adult life, is us as Democrats putting the focus where we need to, on the people. And so for me, our campaign is completely grassroots. We are youth-led because right now we have to give people hope. We have to change the way that the world is. We have to make sure that everyone has a shot at a decent life, has a shot to be able to make their lives better, and to be able to own a home, start a family, have a retirement, have an actual American dream. And for a long time, we haven't had that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that every single person has health care. We are going to go for Medicare for all because we can remove the fat, the middlemen, the insurance companies from the industry and pay 30% less. We are going to make sure that predatory companies do not prey on our individuals who live next to us, on our communities. Right now, we have people walking around in the poor neighborhoods in Gainesville, in Clay County, with cash, offering it to people to buy their houses for pennies on the dollar, simply because at this point, Nobody's protecting them. So we have to make sure that everyone is going to be okay. Our campaign is Adam Christensen for Congress. Our website is forthemany.notjustme.com. We have 50 individuals under the age of 26 that are running the whole thing, and we are completely grassroots funded. So I'm very happy to talk and to share what we've got going on and the vision that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dodds, your statement, please.
Hello, thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting today's.
Could you talk, Mr. Dodds, I'm sorry, can you talk a little bit louder?
Okay, how about this? Thank you, League of Women Voters, for hosting today's panel. You play an important role in making democracy work. I'm Phil Dodds. I'm a Democrat running for the U.S. House of Representatives. I graduated from the University of Florida with a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics and in physics in 1995. My wife and I have lived in Alachua County ever since. We have 3 school-age children and live near our extended family. For the last 25 years, I've led the design and strategy for healthcare IT companies, working with doctors and their office teams to build good software used by hundreds of thousands of people daily. Problem solving is how I make my living. I listen to my customers first and then build solutions that help them succeed. As your representative, my job will be to listen, to lead, and to legislate, representing regular Americans, regardless of their income, race, gender, or sexual orientation. I've listened to you, and what you're asking for is an economy that works for everyone and an ethical, competent government that we can trust. Restoring that trust begins with demanding high standards for our elected officials, equal justice under the law, and policies that benefit everyone, not only the well-off. To save our economy and thousands of innocent lives, we must effectively navigate the COVID-19 pandemic, which means embracing science and data, not our preconceived notions. Similarly, we can protect the environment by learning, understanding the data, and by problem solving. We can build a sustainable economy that protects our air, land, and water, while creating good jobs and whole new industries in the process. To create an economy that works for everyone, we must support workers and encourage small business. We must end corporate welfare, promote competition, and prevent a few giant companies from squeezing out small businesses and family farms. Workers should make a living wage, enough for healthy food, a nice home, and a future for our children. We need less expensive healthcare that will cover us in good times and bad, and that will never leave us bankrupt. We must strengthen our democracy by passing H.R. 4, the Voting Rights Advancement Act, and H.R. 1, the For the People Act, to secure our elections and our right to vote. We must elect representatives that are on a mission to solve problems, that embrace science, and will restore trust. I'm Phil Dodds, and I'm ready to serve as your next representative. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your vote.
Thank you. And Mr. Wells, your statement, please.
Thank you. I'm Tom Wells, and the Democratic candidate for U.S. Congress in CD3. You probably all figured that out. I'm a grandfather with a PhD in theoretical physics and a small business owner. That theoretical physics thing, as Phil spoke to, is all about problem solving. Now, we've been facing the same problems for a very long time. They've recently been added to immensely by this Trump administration, by ineptitude and incompetence and rejection of science completely. So even before Trump, we knew the solutions, but we had not implemented them. We know that we need Medicare for all. We know that private for-profit prisons are an abomination against the human spirit. We should have tuition-free pre-K through college, for we are our most and best renewable resource. We need a living wage of $18 And we need it now, not in 2024. That would be comparable to the wage I earned when I was in 16 and working at a pool. Why have we not solved these problems when we know the answer? Well, corporate money has been corrupting Congress ever since the Supreme Court decreed that money is political speech. That drove both parties into the corporate fold, reelected by lobbyist money. And Trump is the endpoint of 40 years of that legalized bribery in our elections. The Trump administration, which de facto includes every Republican member of House and Senate and nigh every candidate, is the greatest present threat to American democracy. The solvency of our state governments. Now, bankrupt states have to cut pensions, then staff, then schools. This has already happened in Puerto Rico. The Trump administration is a threat to the survival of small businesses, to the health, employment, and housing of the working class. His minions and he committed myriad crimes, but the most grievous is the outright rejection of science. The pandemic was brought here across our borders, unopposed, not hindered in any way by valid testing or contact tracing and containment. He closed the economy and gave $5 trillion to those who lobbied Congress. But still didn't know contact tracing or containment, so we still have, the novel virus still has the pedal to the metal, and if we ever let up on the brake, we accelerate uncontrolled as we are doing now, and we're talking about whether to open schools at the point where Florida's dailies are 10 times what they were when we had this, everything closed. No, we have to have technical competence. Every country with technical competence did far better. I am Tom Wells. You can see me at Tom Wells for Congress. I have a distributed class of people who believe in my campaign and are working for me daily. I will take care of our grandchildren.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the candidates for participating in our forum today. We really appreciate you spending your Sunday afternoon with us. And this concludes the U.S. Representative District 3 panel. Thank you.